Welcome to Hello Health, a show where we have conversations about healthy living. I'm your host, Karen Kwan Was, and I am a certified functional medicine health coach. If you tuned in last week, you may have heard me talk a little bit about character strengths, and we're going to chat about that very briefly here at the beginning of the show, continue on with our conversation about that. I also had a chance to sit down with a really good friend of mine, Nathan Brouillette, and we talked about how to keep your skin healthy, especially in these upcoming months where in certain parts of the country and the world, we're getting colder and our skin's getting a little bit more dehydrated and we have to up our skin game. So we talked a little bit about that, especially from a functional medicine perspective, which is pretty cool. So from the inside out, and also how to treat the outside too. We also have some healthy tips from Gwen, of course, this week. And yeah, let's get the show rolling here. So last week, I gave you this website, the VIA survey, and you can go on there and you can actually take this 10-15-minute quiz and it tells you your top strengths. There are 24 character strengths, and we all have a different arrangement of these strengths, so to say. So some of them are a little bit easier for us. They kind of shine through brighter. And then some of those strengths are a little bit lower and a little bit more challenging for us. So as we continue through our shows in the next few weeks, I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of character strengths of each show. So this week, we're talking about creativity and curiosity. So creativity. And again, I'm going to be referring to this really awesome book, Character Strengths Matter. So if you're interested in learning more, you can pick this up. It gives you really great tips and it talks a little bit more about the strengths in detail. So just a couple tips that they give in this book for building creativity. Now, before I say that, I have a friend of mine who took this quiz and he got creativity, I think, as his top strength. And he's not an artist. He definitely doesn't do anything in like the creative realm, so to speak. And he was shocked and he's like, oh, this quiz isn't real. And then I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? You are very creative. The way that you think about problems, the way you problem solve is extremely creative. You think outside the box. So don't be surprised if you're not an artist and you get creativity as a top strength, because it may just be that you can think outside the box, and that's a really cool strength. So a couple things you can do to strengthen creativity if it's a lower strength for you. You can take a look at leftovers, so like food or stationery, just things you have left over in the house, and try to make new products from that, like recycling. So think about, before you throw away the milk carton or whatever, think about the creative way you could use this, or a practical way to use it. Maybe like to cut open the top and put scrap food in, or anything. Of course, creativity isn't super top of my list, so I clearly need to work on that. Also, look for different and creative ways to spend more time at tasks that you do best. Try to incorporate them into your work or chores to make these times more enjoyable. And I think that's an awesome tip, because there are definitely things throughout my day that I kind of dread doing. But if I can think outside the box and come up with a way to make it a little bit more exciting, to make it more enjoyable, then I'll get it done faster and I won't procrastinate. So just a couple things to think about with creativity. If you have some great ideas, be sure to comment and share and let us know. I definitely have a lot of creative people in my family, so I don't know what happened to me. All right, so curiosity. This is another one that's, I think, really important. A lot of times with myself, I'll talk to someone or someone will say something to me and I'll be like, oh, okay. Then later I think, I should have asked some more questions, or I'm kind of unclear on this. But it wasn't like obvious to me to just ask questions. So curiosity, something you can do to strengthen that, make it shine a little bit brighter, is to expand your knowledge in an area of interest through books, journals, magazines, TV, radio, or internet. Podcasts are a really great way to do this. So a topic that you may not necessarily know much about, maybe you're a little bit interested in, maybe you're not really that interested at all, but it would be kind of cool to know more. Pick a podcast, and especially if you have friends or coworkers that are interested in that topic, they could probably steer you in the right direction. Like pick up this book or listen to this great podcast. I think that's a really great way to just kind of open those doors to learn more. All right, so those are our character strengths. So, Nathan, we had an awesome conversation, and I'm so excited to share this with you today. If you have any questions, be sure to comment in the Facebook comment section, or if you're watching on YouTube, comment there. You can also, you can follow us on Facebook, and you can post on our, message us or whatever, right on Hello Health Show. We also keep updates on shows coming up and sometimes things that we share in the show, like books or recipes that we want to put out there so you can look at later. And of course, we have our YouTube channel, Hello Health. So let's see Nathan. Yay. Hey everyone, I am so excited to introduce this week's guest. His name is Nathan Brouillette, and he is a certified functional medicine health coach, and he's been a stylist for 20 years. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's had a passion for holistic, non-toxic beauty, which led him into this career path where we met in functional medicine health coaching school. So he has so much to share with us, so many awesome tips. I know you're dying to hear, so let's get him on here. Hey, Nathan.
Hi, Karen. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. This is really exciting. I think a lot of people heading into the winter especially are starting to get worried about their skin because we've been out in the sun and getting vitamin D and feeling good, and now we're getting cold and pasty.
The winter is coming.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit first about your journey that's led you here to this holistic route, because being a stylist, I know you've worked with a lot of different types of chemicals and things over your career.
Yes.
So what brought you here?
Yeah, so it all began really with a bad case of eczema on my hands. Which turned out to be contact dermatitis, what I found out. So I had been doing hair probably for a good decade by that point. I mean, and I had been just using all of the normal products that, they were all professional, they were all things that were considered like, some of those big name brands that we know, like in the salons. And so I hadn't even put it together really, but I had started to develop this hand problem, and I went to a dermatologist, tried a steroid cream, it helped for a little while, then it came back with a vengeance. And so it was at that moment that I kind of like started to like just, went to Google, started searching, what could cause this, and then started to kind of go down the rabbit hole of like the toxic dilemma in the cosmetic industry, and started to identify and become more knowledgeable about like the categories of environmental toxins that were in these products. And that kind of brought me, into this notion of trying to be like more of a holistic hairstylist. So I started to find cleaner products. I started to read more about how the hair and the skin were affected by our diets, by our lifestyles, by all kinds of things. And so I was working in that realm when I kind of decided to take it even further, and I went to health coaching school last year to kind of really delve in and get that function. I knew functional medicine. I had come across it, and I had read about like the basics of it, and I loved the whole concept. I loved the getting to the root cause. I loved the notion of the holistic approach, that there was so many things going on besides just one thing. So yeah, that's pretty much how, and that's kind of become my specialty now, is really looking at environmental toxins and how that piece fits in. And then now that was something I kind of already was doing, and now I've been able to add in the functional nutrition and all of that great information. So yeah, that's what brought me here.
Yeah. That's great. And it's funny that you mentioned the eczema too, because that had been an issue of mine as
That's
well.
right.
And
Right.
you work with your hands for hair, and I work with my hands for massage. So
Oh, I know.
your
They're
hands
like,
are
you have them insured. Yeah.
exactly. It makes working really
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, and especially
And it
like,
was
water and everything. Yeah, it was.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, washing your hands constantly. And so for me, it was really exploring food sensitivities and healing my
Yes,
gut that
yes.
healed the eczema.
That was a whole new aspect of it that I discovered through our process of going through FMCA.
Yeah.
You know, I really was able to kind of finally get it all the way under control by understanding that piece, which I feel like that was the missing link for me before. You know, I hadn't studied nutrition at all. So, yeah, it was awesome.
So interesting.
It is.
Talking about skin, I was thinking today before we started recording, and I was just remembering back in middle school, you know, when the guidance counselor gets you all together and talks about puberty and your bodies are changing. I remember, and I'll never forget this, I remember specifically our guidance counselor saying that acne doesn't come from potato chips and chocolate. That's a lie. Like that, I don't know if it's a lie, but a fallacy or, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I distinctly remember that. I mean, we're the same age group.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember that too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, doesn't matter if I eat potato chips. I'm not
yeah, it's fine. Totally fine. That's not connected at all. Nothing I eat does anything to affect anything like that. Yeah.
So crazy, but now we know better.
Use their money on their vending machines.
Right.
So, you know, they couldn't tell us that. We'd stop eating it.
Right, you know? Right. Yeah, so we know so much better now. I think a lot of that's coming to light even more so.
Mm-hmm.
But there is still, you know, our age group, I feel like we were kind of fed all this misinformation. Maybe, I mean, it was thought to be fact at the time, like sugar isn't that bad of a problem, and
and like fat's bad for you, you know, all fat's bad. You know, that was like, I think that was the one we grew up really. I remember my mother sitting there eating, you know, something fat-free while drinking a, you know, caffeine-free Diet Coke, you know?
Right,
like, you know, and when I think back at it, I'm like, wow, that was basically sugar on chemical non-sugar, you know? Like, I was like, you're eating all this fat-free stuff, which has sugar added, and then you're drinking a Coke that they took the sugar out of but put a chemical into that's even worse than sugar. So yeah, I think they've always wanted to like demonize a macronutrient or demonize some kind of thing to make it, you know, today I think it's like the attack on carbohydrates, you know, where we have to educate and say, well, not all carbohydrates, you need some of those are foundational. Right. You know, it's like, I think that, there's always going to be that marketing ploy that wants to keep us, you know, buying the products.
So knowing this, I mean, some people watching this might be like, "Oh, really? Wow! This is news to me." So, what are a couple nutritional things that you could recommend for people who are having acne issues?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, I think we touched on, first of all, sugar. Sugar is such a huge trigger for so many things we know, but definitely skin. And then I think a huge one is staying hydrated. You know, like that's, you know, maybe not a nutritional, but it is really, I mean, staying hydrated. I think people just really underestimate how dehydrated they actually are, you know, the recommended amount of water, and honestly, not just drinking enough water, but paying attention to the foods that are hydrating, you know, knowing about the fact that cucumber, I mean, there's a reason cucumber always has been like in the spa, you know what I mean? We know that it's very hydrating, even on your eyes, like they put it. I mean, it even has a topical. We know that eating cucumbers, putting cucumbers in your water, cucumber juice, you know, we know celery juice and celery in general, just so much hydrating, watermelon, you know, all of those types of fruits and things that really can help us add in the hydration besides just the water. I think that definitely, you know, repairing our relationship with fats and with healthy protein and fat. I've learned recently that, you know, there's this whole move in the world of cosmetics about like the collagen thing, right? Are you going to take collagen? Do you have collagen in skincare, but really collagen is a difficult thing for us to absorb externally. Really, our bodies have a brilliant way of making our own collagen, but we need the building blocks for it. And that's where the fat and the protein comes in, amino acids, and, you know, making sure that when we are eating fat, that we understand there's a difference between the types of fat and knowing the healthy ones. So the avocados and the healthy nuts and seeds, and, you know, the good quality virgin oils. And honestly, the best way to get fat from oils is with raw fat, like raw oils. So, you know, the way you drizzle it on a salad or something, that's really, it's the more cooked oils, the trans fats, those are the ones where we get into that unhealthy place. So really prioritizing that. And then whether you're a vegetarian or an omnivore, just making sure you're getting good quality protein. I think if you're a vegetarian, it's even more important to like really be clear about how to get the proper amount of protein, because it's harder, you know. And then as far as omnivore goes, just making sure you're looking for that cleaner source, you know, that grass fed or pasture raised. You know, not only are they more delicious usually, like I know like farm fresh eggs can't be beat, you know, I mean, so, but they're also usually much better. I mean, you can crack 2 eggs open and, you know, one of the more industrial versions and then a farm fresh one, and that farm fresh yolk is like dark marigold, you know, whereas the other one's yellow, and that's a huge one. So eggs are a great source of protein and biotin, actually, which is the kind of buzz supplement that people do for hair growth and stuff. So yeah, I think really prioritizing the fat and the protein, and then the staying hydrated, and then, you know, just prioritizing, you know, like the rainbow, you know, making sure to get all those different phytonutrients, you know, especially I think the greens and the reds. I think those two are big for skin and hair. Minerals, you know, the antioxidants you see in cherries and raspberries and, you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, those are just great for skin cell production and turnover and things like that. So that's nutritional.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some great advice. Thank you. And eating the rainbow, I mean, it just sounds so exciting.
It is.
Right?
It's so much more enjoyable too. I mean, it's such a fun, I think it taps you into your inner child if you let it, you know.
Yeah.
I think if you start counting calories and macronutrients and all that, it can get so, it takes the joy out of food, you know. But when you think of a beautiful plate full of rainbow things, and if you're just always thinking about like almost painting a picture with your food, knowing like, oh, I'm missing this color, I have nothing of this one color, you know, adding that in really just guarantees that you're having a fun thing. And then of course, eating seasonally helps with that as well, you know. We know that, you know, in summertime when that watermelon is in season, like eat as much of it as you can, you know, just like get it while it's good, because then it's wintertime and we have to kind of switch our thinking. So yeah, really a fun way.
And I know too, when I have my huge water bottle here, but
I'm always trying to.
when the cold weather starts to hit here in New England, I switch over to warm water. I mean, I always drink room temperature water anyway.
Yeah, me too.
But I warm my water up to about 125, and I keep it in insulated. I have 2 of these insulated water bottles. This is not an endorsement for Clean Canteen, by the way. This is what I have.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it's better on your digestion.
Yeah. You know, that brings up a good point too. Like, I think that's a great way too, is like with teas and broths. That's 2 really great ways, especially in the winter time, you know. I mean, you can really make some beautiful broths. You know, of course there's bone broth, which, you know, a lot of people love. I mean, that can be a little overwhelming for some people because of just the length of time that it needs to be done. But I've been researching some really beautiful vegetable broths too, you know, adding in things like kombu seaweed and, you know, shiitake mushrooms and different things like that are really high mineral intake that you can make fairly quickly, you know. Put all of it in a big pot, fill it up, let it simmer for an hour or so, and then strain that out, and you have that now. You can drink that, just heat it up and drink it in a cup as is. You can add it to use it for your soups. You can use it to saute your vegetables in. And that's just another way to stay hydrated, because it can get boring sometimes with the water. I mean, that's why I suggest to most of my clients, like, do infused waters. That's great. That adds a little bit of flavor. Tea is basically just water, I mean, it's a lot of water.
Right.
A big glass of water. It's just got extra herbs in it.
Yeah.
So really being able to find, and I just, whatever tea you like, I mean, it doesn't have to, there's definitely different benefits to different ones, but I tell most people, start with whatever the one is that you like the most. I mean, I think that's true with all of this. What I'm learning is start with the things that you like, and then you can build into that. I mean, I think most people think being healthy is going to be this miserable journey that's going to take away everything that they love. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Like we can find ways. I also think really, I like to prioritize like subtraction by way of addition, rather than focusing so much on what you need to remove, unless, of course, you're ready to do some kind of elimination diet. But, just focus on what you can add in and how that can slowly sort of take the place of something else, where you feel the transition happening more naturally, and you feel more abundant, like you're feasting rather than restriction,
Right, yeah.
Mindset, if you can just change that mindset, like we know about what we've learned about positive psychology. I mean, it's just so much more powerful if you can go into it with what's good and what's going to grow than what's, needs to be removed. I think that
totally. And we had talked a little bit about beware of supplements.
Yes. So I've been learning a lot lately about that. So the supplement world is insane. It's massive. It's and it's so varied. You have everything from the big box stores all the way to like the independent herbalists. And I think that what I'm learning is it's like, first and foremost, we should get as much of our vitamins and nutrients from our food. So even when we're looking at supplementing, we should be looking for supplements that are really more whole food, So for example, I have a product that's like a green powder that I add to my smoothies, and it's all, pure, like dehydrated greens. It's been dehydrated on a very low heat so that it keeps bioactive. And it's just all whole food, organic whole food. It's got the wheatgrass in it. It's got the spirulina in it, And so that, if you're going to supplement, that kind of a supplement, I think is better than some pill that's telling you that it has XYZ vitamins in it, because that way you're getting it from when you get vitamins from your food, it's this complex interaction of lots of things, flavonoids and phenols and all these different things that create what we would call, for example, vitamin C. We were talking about, vitamin C is this complex mix of a lot of things. But then when you look at most vitamin C supplements, it says like absorbic acid or, something that's just, they've like really taken this one little bit out of the whole food and created this. And then they're telling you to take 1,200 milligrams of it, but then you're really just passing that right through your body. It's not, and it's actually, from what I've been reading, there's evidence showing that it can actually be detrimental to your health, because now you're putting more stress on your kidneys and your liver to kind of clean another thing out. Everything we take in, we have to think about how much waste do we produce from that has to be removed from our bodies. And if we're eating, if we're taking something that's just basically going through us, we're just adding another thing for our digestive system to deal with. Ideally, we should be trying to get as much of it to absorb and then minimize the amount of waste that we have to get rid of, because that has its own problem. And that's my love too of like the detoxification system. I mean, I think that's an underlooked at thing. A lot of times we just don't think about that. For hormones, for example, like we have to remove those from the body. So you have to make sure that detox system is working right. The liver, the kidneys, even like your skin. I think your skin is a detox system, so sweating and, making sure the products you're using are not creating, barriers on the skin, or making, or like deodorant, for example, not clogging up the pores and not allowing that natural lymphatic drainage to take place. I mean, all that stuff really affects the way that we are. So yeah, with supplements, I think it's just key. Find it first with your food as much as you can. And then if you need supplementation, seek out as many like close to the whole food as you can. Find it as
Or ask a functional medicine
Yes.
doctor or a
Yes,
nutritionist or a
exactly,
coach
exactly.
for some guidance on that. You know, it's funny when
Absolutely. I
you're
think
saying
I'd
that.
always do that. Yeah, always be in guidance. Like even as a coach, I would want to
Yeah.
be in guidance with their doctor. You know, I had
Right.
my parents there. I've been working with my parents, and I had them talk to their doctor before we got them on any supplements. And
Yeah.
you know, it's a good idea to just always be thinking about. You know, don't let the advertising get you. You know, they'll want to. There's always another super pill out there that they say is going to solve everything. You know, and it's just not, you know, I mean, it might help one person and then it could actually be detrimental to another. So you really have to know your own bio individuality.
Yeah. And, you know, going back to the skin, I should have made a banner for this one too. One thing that I had learned over the past couple years is to don't over cleanse.
Yes, actually
that is like it's something I hadn't ever thought of because I use one of those like facial brushes, the silicone. I have the PMD, and I use a facial wash. That's just a very mild wash, you know, and I'd use the PMD in the morning and at night. But I've been using Drunk Elephant products, and they're really about the pH, the mantle on your skin.
Yeah, they're a beautiful line.
You don't want to mess that up.
Yes.
So
absolutely. There's a whole move actually in what they call the oil cleansing method. You know.
Yeah, I've done that too. Yeah.
Because oils actually will like, you know, especially there's certain oils like castor oil, for example. We know like there's that whole castor oil pack thing that you can do on your stomach that literally can pull things out. So it's the same in your skin. So, you know, you can do like I remember I made this thing one time, you know, and different oils, you know, like I think like olive oil and castor oil together are great because they are more kind of cleansing oils. And then like a little bit of fine sugar added into that to create almost like a little bitty mini oil scrub. And you can kind of put it on and then that oil begins to pull things out. And see, and people who have acneic skin tend to be very scared of oil. But what they don't realize is that a lot of times what's happening with acne is that your oil glands in your skin, they're very deep into the skin. They're in the dermis, right? And then we have this outer layer called the epidermis, which is the very, very thin layer on the outside, yet it takes the bulk of the beating. You know, it takes the sun, it takes what we do to it. So what happens a lot of times is you're washing your face, you're actually drying out the epidermis. That's sending a message to the oil glands deep within saying, hey, it's dry up there. We need to start producing more oil. So you start to produce more oil, but now that oil has to travel up through the dermis to get to the top. So inevitably it gets caught up in there in pores and things. And that's where you have blemishes. That's where you'll have buildup of these sebums. And then they kind of begin to become, you know, like they begin to putrefy, basically, like become backed up. And so actually people, when they start to do oil cleansing, they can sometimes go through a period of breaking out, but it's actually a lot of times like they're drawing everything up and then their epidermis is finally hydrated and then they stop overproducing and then they find that they clear up completely, you know, and that their skin becomes balanced. Same with the scalp. I find oftentimes that's what's going on, even with like an oily scalp person. They find it hard to, you know, because like somebody will come to me with an oily scalp and I'll be like, oh, well, you need to start doing oil treatments on your scalp. And they're like, what? Why would I add oil when I'm oily? And it's like, because you know, you're overproducing oil. You have to do it, you know, and
it's so fascinating.
And it's like, yeah, so I think you're right. Cleansing is definitely going with very, very mild, and even like alternating, you know, maybe, you know, in the morning, maybe you want to do the wash or you know, and then at night do the oil cleanse method. That way you're kind of balancing. I think looking into the ingredients in the, you know, like a lot of like more of a cream cleanser, a gentle low foaming cleanser, something that's got, you know, there's milk cleansers, there's coconut cleansers, you know, things that are just more mild, and then definitely you know, balancing that with, you know, moisturizing for sure.
Yes. Moisturizing is huge.
Yeah.
I think my skin, I think my skin totally turned around maybe like 10 years ago because I started using like a serum. Once I
Yes,
started using
absolutely.
the
I think you
serums.
should. Yeah. Yeah. I use one at night. I have a night one that I use. That's more of a kind of an oil base, and it's got all those good like vitamin C and like the CoQ10 and things like that. You actually don't really want to wear it outside in the daytime because it's got enough vitamin C in it that it can cause skin sensitivity, so you want to wear it overnight, and then in the mornings, in the daytime, just a light moisturizer. And also too, I think seasonally it changes. In the summertime, usually we need lighter, we're more oily, we're more sweaty.
Right.
In the winter, this is the time when you really should be using more of the rich oils and the nice, night creams and stuff, because this is when you're in the dry heat in your house. It's cold outside. That wind is so chapping if it's cold, so really being aware of that. And, so yeah, experimenting too. I think that people have to find the right thing, everyone's skin, but I think we have to move beyond this whole just like oily or dry. I mean, I think there's a mix. We all are a mix of things, and we can be one for a little bit and then another one. And even like you said, hormonally, and in your life where you are, what age group you're in, things change, so always be open to changing things that you need to, that aren't serving you anymore,
Yeah. As we're talking to you and brainstorming, like you have to come back on the show and we'll do a couple like do-it-yourself type things, like
totally,
make the oil cleansing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've done the facial cupping.
You've got in the kitchen right now. I guarantee that you can make fun skincare products out of. I mean, if you got a blender or a food processor, and like you can whip up some magic in your kitchen, that
good to go. Yep.
Yeah, it's great.
Some awesome stuff. So we'll do another show on that, maybe like in another couple months where it's winter and we need
when we're in like the depths of it. Yeah. Oh yeah. I love like whipping up body butters and things like that. I love all the oils and all the things.
You had talked about managing stress and getting enough sleep. Yes. So that's so important.
Absolutely. I mean, who hasn't experienced that, right? Like you're in a really stressful period of time and you break out. You get a zit, or you get a cold sore, or you get a something. I mean, I think our skin is like this. It's like this. It's a living entity. It's our. One of the things that has always fascinated me about the skin is the fact that it's our largest organ, and that it's the only one on the outside. I mean, you think about all the other organs and how they're so like protected deep within.
Yeah.
And our poor skin just out here like taking the brunt of this life, like, I mean, getting knocked down, getting burned,
right.
Yes, I think it's a reactive thing. So our stress management is huge. I mean, on both hair and skin. We often see, hair loss can happen triggered a month later after a stressful event. We can break out, we can have rashes. I mean, you think about like breaking out in hives and how that can be so connected to fear and stress and being in some kind of a thing, and we actually itch, like it's literally like because it's hormonal, right? Like when we're in fear, we are releasing these hormones. We're releasing the cortisol to make ourselves go into the fight or flight. We're releasing the different, things. And so immediately our skin, has to deal with that, or that we're suddenly full of these hormones in this moment. And we know for a fact that with the sleep, if you're not getting that good sleep and getting the cortisol, then you start going into the adrenal fatigue, which wreaks havoc on everything, skin being just one of them, but, and I always tell people it's like that wired and tired thing, you're like, you can't sleep, but you're exhausted, and it's because your adrenal gland. So yeah, I think managing stress, like deep breathing, I think a hard one for people to realize that I'm dealing with in my life even is like, shedding those toxic relationships, like looking at who you're sitting with, and are they supporting you? Are they somebody that's always negative? Are they trying to, or are they bringing goodness to your life? Or are they bringing a lot of drama, and then, looking at how, turning the TV off sometimes and taking that moment to, like being aware of how much news we consume, how much stuff because I think when we're, there's certain things like if that fight or flight, I think happens when the stress level goes up, but we really can't do anything about it. This is sometimes I think what's going on in our world today is we see so many things happening. We see so much suffering. We see so much, but really we have no power to do anything about it. and so then it just creates this way where we just sit in that feeling of not being able to do anything. And so it's like, turn that off, go take a walk, you know, do some deep breathing, you know, get out in nature, give yourself a little home facial if that makes you feel relaxed, take a warm bath. Like, just remember all that's going to be there tomorrow. It's not going anywhere, you know, knowing about it or not knowing about it is not going to change the world, but it will change your world. You know, it'll make you miserable. So I think definitely. And then also, like, in nutrition wise, knowing things like, you know, I mean, I'm really trying to be more aware for myself of, like, you know, giving myself an hour or two before bed of stopping to eat, you know, because that literally puts stress on the body, you know, looking at what kind of activities, like, what am I going to eat before a certain activity, you know, like knowing how food stresses the body out, you know, like, you don't really want to eat a steak and then try to go run a marathon. Like, that's not really the best way to do that. You know, you could eat a steak after a marathon when you need to sit down and take a break and rest. And then that might be a great time to eat a steak and get some B vitamins and some minerals back. But we know that, like, there's certain times where, you know, food spikes our cortisol. Food makes us tired. Food can be stressful on the body. So yeah, really getting that, I think it's like recommended is something like 6 to 9 hours, you know, 7 hours being kind of the sweet spot for most people. And then just knowing that stress is going to come. So it's really not a matter of removing stress. It's a matter of learning how we cope with it, you know, and what we do
managing it. Yeah, sure. And that's kind of what we do as health coaches too, is help people
I think that's
figure that out.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so awesome. And I think we've come up with some great ideas for future shows. We'll definitely have Nathan back on again. So if you would like to reach out to Nathan, this is his email address, and he's also on Facebook. He also posts all kinds of really interesting information on there. He's in the process of launching his health coaching business.
Yes.
So
and I'll have a great website that I hope to be a really wonderful resource for people. I want to really offer a lot of value and free value besides just working with me as a paying client. I hope to be blogging and sharing with you all the latest information that I find in this journey, especially in regards to how you can reduce toxic burden in your body, how you can find ways to nurture and self-care for yourself, especially your skin and your hair. So be on the lookout for that. That's coming. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And we'll have you on again, you know, when that's all launched.
Yes,
and everything.
I would love that. I would love that.
So thanks again.
Thank you.
This has
great.
been an awesome chat. I love talking about this.
Absolutely. Yes. Me too.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Stephen.
you so much, Karen. I'll see you later. Okay.
Hi, welcome to Healthy Tips with Gwen. Oh, so fun. Okay. Today we're going to talk about ways to optimize hydration. I mean, we all hear about it. It's essential for our health. It just affects every part of us. It's like one of the most basic things that we can all do to really prioritize our health. From our skin to our body, just everything is affected by our hydration. But it can get a little bit boring. So today I'm just going to share a few little ideas that we do in our house to jazz things up, if you will. One of the most sort of lowest hanging fruit, if you will, is things like adding oranges, limes, lemons, and pomegranate, or like mint, stuff like that, to things like bubbly water. Or you can add it to just flat water and have it rest out on the counter or in the fridge. And that can kind of infuse the water with flavor, but also with nutrients. So that's cool. I like to have just a gigantic mason jar of water on hand all the time. I know for my weight, I need to drink 4 of these bad boys a day to keep my hydration where it should be, which is a lot some days, but you know, it's good to know the markers and then just be like, aim for it, do your best. The other really great way to splash out is with diversity. So having a diversity, like an amazing tea selection is one of my favorites. Something for different times of the day, something for different moods. Really figuring out and getting curious about what you love and enjoy. Maybe it's like really fruity things, and then you're making unsweetened homemade iced tea from your favorite flavors. Or maybe you really love green tea, which is incredible for you, especially if you add a little squeeze of lemon, if it works with the flavor, because it brings out even more antioxidants or something like that, which is incredible. Really looking at different ways that you can experiment to just get a little bit of clarity around what you can do to create a more interesting hydration practice, but also understanding that it is just like essential, and making the shift into hydration can, like hydrating regularly, can be a little bit of a struggle. Feels like maybe you don't feel thirsty. But what I have learned from experience is that if you prioritize, you figure out, so it's like you figure out how much you weigh in pounds, you divide it in half, and that number is how many fluid ounces of water you should drink, or liquid. So once you have that equation, really trying to reach for it, and what you'll notice is when you don't, you will start to feel thirsty. You'll notice it in your skin. You'll notice it just in your body and your energy. You start to crave it. So while it might take a little bit of work at the start, understanding that the more you prioritize it, the more you get creative and create some like fun flavors. Combinations like pomegranate and orange are really good. The combination of lemon and lime is delicious. Some people like cucumber and mint. Just get down with your bad self. Add in anything you like. Try it out. There's amazing like elixirs that you can make with turmeric and honey and lemon and ginger and all sorts of fun things to do. And really just build up that sort of repertoire of diversity, and just know you got to do it. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
And that's our show for this week. I hope you learned some helpful tips that you can share with others and use in your life. As we plunge into the week ahead, we are full steam ahead into holiday season here. And just take care of yourselves and be well. And next week, I will be here with my friend Mignon, an amazing person who sat with me to talk about healthy brews. So teas and other drinks that are delicious, that also optimize your health. And we totally geeked out. So it's a good show. So make sure to tune in next week, next Sunday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Until then, be well, and I will see you on the flip side.